In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where manicured lawns and white picket fences painted a picture of suburban bliss, a storm was brewing. It was a crisp autumn morning when the unthinkable happened. Men in crisp uniforms, claiming to be officers of the Homeowners Association, HOA, stormed into Ellen Harper's cozy cottage. Ellen, a wheelchair-bound widow known as the neighborhood's beloved grandmother, was defenseless as they tore off her diaper under the pretense of a drug search. The act, witnessed by horrified neighbors, shattered the fragile peace of Willow Creek and ignited a firestorm of outrage that would change the community forever. Willow Creek was the kind of place where kids rode bikes on quiet streets and neighbors waved over picket fences. But beneath this idyllic facade, the HOA's iron grip tightened. For months, residents whispered about unjust fines, a family penalized for planting daisies instead of roses, an elderly man cited for a mailbox an inch too tall. These weren't just petty rules, they were chains, binding the community under a veil of fear. The HOA's notices, embossed with a once-trusted emblem, arrived like decrees from a faceless king. No one knew who these enforcers were, but their power was absolute, and dissent was rare. Ellen, a retired librarian who had taught generations of Willow Creek's children, was the heart of the neighborhood. Her cottage, with its vibrant garden, was a sanctuary of joy. Despite her disability, her spirit shone bright, her laughter a beacon for those who knew her. But that morning, as the HOA's so-called officers barged through her side door, her sanctuary became a battleground. The men, their eyes cold and voices dripping with rehearsed authority, ignored her trembling pleas. "We're acting on a tip," they barked, accusing her of hiding drugs. The accusation was laughable to anyone who knew Ellen's quiet life, but the violation was no joke. As they stripped her dignity, neighbors watched in stunned silence, their shock morphing into molten fury. Among them was Clara, Ellen's niece, a soft-spoken accountant with a fire in her heart. Clara arrived to find her aunt sobbing, her sanctuary defiled. The image of those men, their hands tearing away Ellen's last shred of privacy, seared itself into Clara's mind. She vowed to fight, not just for her aunt, but for every resident crushed under the HOA's boot. This wasn't just an attack on Ellen, it was an assault on Willow Creek itself. The neighborhood buzzed with outrage. In living rooms and coffee shops, residents shared stories of their own HOA nightmares, fines for invisible infractions, threats of foreclosure, even a stolen garden gnome that had sparked joy for years. Clara, fueled by rage and love, became the unlikely leader of a rebellion. She pored over HOA bylaws, consulted lawyers, and unearthed a trail of corruption that reeked of greed. Funds meant for community upkeep had vanished into ghost accounts, funneled to the board's cronies. The HOA wasn't protecting Willow Creek, it was bleeding it dry. Clara's dining table became a war room, strewn with documents and highlighters. She organized secret meetings, her voice trembling but resolute as she rallied her neighbors. "We've been silent too long," she declared, her words igniting a spark in the crowd. They weren't just neighbors anymore, they were warriors, armed with stories of injustice and a shared thirst for change. Mr. Thompson, a retiree, spoke of a $500 fine for a too vibrant flower bed. Mrs. Lee recounted how her son's basketball hoop was confiscated overnight. Each tale added fuel to the fire, building a case too damning to ignore. The tension reached its peak at a packed meeting in the Willow Creek Community Hall. The air crackled with anticipation as residents clutched folders of evidence. The HOA's president, a smug man named Victor Grayson, took the podium first, his voice a monotone of excuses and jargon. But his confidence crumbled as Clara stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "This ends tonight," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. She presented receipts, bank statements, and recorded testimonies that exposed the HOA's fraud. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the truth unfolded, fake invoices, secret deals, and a pattern of intimidation that had silenced dissent for years. One by one, residents stood, their voices shaking but strong. Mrs. Carter, a widow, told of a fine that forced her to skip meals. A young father confessed to paying thousands to avoid foreclosure over a non-compliant fence. The room erupted in a chorus of defiance, demanding transparency, audits, and new leadership. Victor's face paled, his excuses drowned by the crowd's roar. The HOA's facade had cracked, and Willow Creek was ready to tear it down. The battle moved to the courtroom, where the air was thick with the weight of justice. Ellen, frail but unbroken, took the stand. Her voice cracked as she recounted the humiliation, each word a dagger to the hearts of those listening. "I felt like nothing," she whispered. "Like my home wasn't mine anymore." Clara sat beside her, gripping her hand, her eyes locked on the defendants, those fake officers who had once strutted with impunity. Now they shrank in their seats, their bravado replaced by dread. The prosecution was relentless, unveiling a dossier of corruption, siphoned funds, fabricated violations, and a reign of terror disguised as community welfare. Neighbors testified, their stories weaving a tapestry of abuse that left the courtroom stunned. The defense scrambled, their arguments unraveling under the weight of truth. When the judge delivered the verdict, guilty on charges of fraud, invasion of privacy, and harassment, the room exhaled. The officers' tears were a stark contrast to their earlier arrogance. Justice had arrived, and Willow Creek had won. In the aftermath, the neighborhood transformed. Ellen's cottage became a symbol of resilience, her garden blooming brighter than ever. A new HOA board, elected by the people, rewrote policies with fairness and transparency. Backyards filled with laughter, and community events, from book clubs to block parties, flourished. Clara, once a quiet niece, was now a hero, her courage a beacon for all. The scars of the past remained, but they were badges of a community that had fought and triumphed. Willow Creek wasn't just a place anymore, it was a promise. A promise that no one, no matter how frail, would be silenced again. Ellen, surrounded by love, smiled as neighbors gathered at her home, their unity a testament to what they'd achieved. Clara looked out at the vibrant streets, knowing their fight had forged a legacy that would echo for generations. "What do you think? Was Clara's rebellion justified, or did she push too far? Should communities tolerate strict HOAs for the sake of order, or is freedom worth the fight?" Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. And while you're at it, share your views on pranks and relationships, playful bonding or a step too far? Like, subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going.